Thunderdome on Colombia. Good morning, Kuhner country. Ho, ho, ho. Okay, my friends, I was going to talk about Trump's incredible exchange that he had with L.A. Mayor Karen Bass, California Moonbat Congressman Brad Sherman, at a wide-ranging, unbelievable town hall regarding FEMA and the rebuilding of the Pacific Palisades and much of greater Los Angeles in the wake of those historic wildfires. However, and I'll probably will get to it later in the show if there's time, but what happened yesterday has blown everything off the news cycle. And if you want to talk about Daddy is back home, if you want to talk about America is back, holy shamoly. So, here, my friends, is exactly what is now taking place. As many of you know, Trump, along with his border czar, Tom Homan, who is doing an outstanding job, have now begun the largest, greatest mass deportation of illegal aliens in the history of the world. Not just in the history of the United States, in the history of the world. And now you are seeing not just ICE agents, but federal government agents, whether it be ATF, the Marshal Service, the DEA, they have been deputized by Trump to go into city after city after city. And they are now rounding up criminal illegal aliens. Now, again, I want to stress, in this first phase, over 99.9999% of the illegal aliens who they are now capturing in these raids and then putting them in handcuffs and deporting them in these massive cargo flights, military flights, are almost, as I said, 99.999999% are criminals. And I don't mean just that they came into this country illegally, obviously. We are talking about pedophiles, child molesters, rapists, murderers, drug traffickers, sex traffickers, MS-13 Trinidad gangbangers. We're talking now about the worst of the worst, the most vile of the vile. So please understand this, okay? Because this sets the tone for everything. That's the essential context to everything. And so, yesterday morning, after Trump's raids, they rounded up over 160 Colombians in this country, forget illegally, most of them with criminal backgrounds, many, in fact, most of them members of gangs. In fact, some of them were rounded up in Chicago, in New York. These are some of the most known deadly drug traffickers in the world. Pink cocaine. They are peddling pink cocaine, which is a very addictive, powerful, deadly narcotic. So, they were rounded up in these ICE raids, which begs the question, why didn't Biden do this? Why don't the mayors and the governors in these blue states primarily, why didn't they do this? What, you want drug dealers in our communities? You want murderers? You want pedophiles? You want child molesters? Like, you want this? All right, but let that go, as I like to say. They're now rounded up by ICE. President Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio had full authorization and agreement from the President of Colombia. Gustavo Petro is his name. Now, Gustavo Petro was a former, I kid you not, Marxist guerrilla, a guerrilla fighter. Okay, an admirer of Fidel Castro, and Che Guevara, and of course the strongman Chavez of Venezuela and Maduro. So he is a rabid anti-American leftist. But his government agreed. You're going to take back now these 160 illegal aliens. We're going to ship them to you in 2 cargo planes, military planes, C-17s. They left San Diego yesterday morning, 6 a.m. in the air, on their way, thinking we're going to dump them off in Bogota and have a nice life. See you later. They're now your problem. They're your citizens. They're Colombian citizens. We're just returning Colombian citizens back to their country. In the middle of the flight, midair, that Marxist socialist thug says, I'm rescinding the deal. Send them back. And the reason why he says he will not take these flights is that according to him, listen to this, how dare you put these Colombian illegals in handcuffs? That they were not treated with quote-unquote dignity. The dignity, he said, that they deserve. And so he says, you're not bringing them back. We don't want them. You took them in. You keep them. And now we had a diplomatic crisis on our hands. And my friends, this was a pivotal moment in Trump's entire presidency. Because it's Mexico that's now refusing migrant flights as well, deportations. Other countries around the world are saying, we don't want these people back. We know they're criminals. We know they're the worst of the worst. So they're trying to now say, we can send them to the United States. We can urge them to go to the United States, but the United States can't return them. Trump immediately went on Truth Social and went Thunderdome. I mean, he dropped a hammer on the Colombian government and on Gustavo Petro, that thug in Bogota, personally. According to Trump, he then told the Colombian leader, I am immediately going to impose a 25% emergency tariff on every single Colombian good and product coming into the United States. Now, you may snicker and say, well, what do the Colombians sell us, Jeff? What? Believe it or not, they sell oil. $16 billion is what they send in every year. A third of that is oil. Gold. Coffee. And I did not know this until yesterday's story. One of their biggest exports for Colombia to the United States, fresh cut roses. Flowers, but especially roses. What are we now? A couple of weeks away from Valentine's Day? These sanctions, coffee in particular, would destroy the Colombian economy. It would cripple the Colombian economy. And Trump didn't just impose a 25% tariff. He then revoked all visas from every single government official, every party member of the president, every family member, and imposed a travel ban. So basically, if you're part of the Colombian elite, you can't move in the United States, you can't function in the United States, you can't enter the United States, you have to leave the United States. And then Trump said, and this is just the beginning, if you continue to not want to accept these deportation flights, we're going to increase the tariff from 25 to 50% next week. And we're going to impose sanctions on Colombia. In other words, we can do this the easy way, or we could do this the hard way. Gustav, it's up to you. Well, within 2 hours, Gustavo Petro, the socialist El Presidente, the former Marxist guerrilla, Viva la Revolucion, folded like a cheap suit, did a complete 180-degree, suddenly Donald, we have misunderstanding, Donald. No, you misunderstand what I said, Donald. So, according now to the Colombian strongman, okay, that corrupt thug, he now says, no, it was all one big misunderstanding. No, we just didn't like the fact that they were put in handcuffs. We don't mind taking them back. We just want them returned, quote unquote, with dignity. And so, the Colombian president now says he's sending his presidential plane, I swear to you, fly him to San Diego, load all 160 of these criminal illegal aliens into his presidential plane, and now they're going to be returned to Colombia. And from this point forward, every single deportation flight will be allowed to come from the United States into Colombia. He literally just broke the Colombian strongman. He cracked him like an egg. Now, this has reverberated all over Latin America, all over the world. Trump just slapped him silly. And my question to you, did Trump do the right thing or the wrong thing? Your calls next. 620 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. Oh, what a beautiful thing to behold yesterday, I got to tell you. Oh, it's great to have a pro-American president back. It really is. Okay, so I want to get, obviously, your feedback. 617-266-6868 is the number. So, President Trump, after a decision by the Colombian government. Now, remember, it is led by a radical leftist, virulently anti-American. I mean, just really hates our country. It's quite obvious. So he refused to take two flights. There were C-17 military cargo planes full of Colombian criminal illegal aliens, which the government in Bogota in Colombia initially authorized, said, okay, yeah, sure, you're going to send them. We have no choice. We're going to take them. So they left San Diego, and in mid-flight, in the air, the Colombian government turned around. The president said, no, we're not going to take them. Send them back. You're not treating them with dignity. Why are they in handcuffs? Why are they in military planes? This apparently outraged him. And so he sent them back. And that's when Trump went absolutely, he just, he took his, politically, he took his head off. And that's when Trump said, fine, this is how you want to play? Okay, 25% tariff, a visa ban, a travel ban. And if this continues, 50% tariff on all Colombian goods and products next week. And and then sanctions. By the time we're done, you won't be able to sell a coffee bean, one fresh cut rose. You won't sell anything by the time we're done with you. And within 2 hours, I think even less, frankly, but it was 2 hours about, the Colombian president did a complete reversal, a complete 180. And suddenly, no, Mr. President, you misunderstand. No. So, now, this is what I find incredible. What they're sending back now, what they're deporting to Colombia, these are literally, they're gangbangers. They're drug traffickers. Some of them child rapists, molesters, pedophiles. They're not supposed to be in handcuffs? Like, what do you want us to send them on? Really? First class? In a commercial plane? So, according to the Colombian president, it just shows you what a narco state it is. How corrupt it is. How they're in bed with all of these drug cartels and drug traffickers. He's going to send, El Presidente is going to send his personal presidential plane to take these Colombian criminal illegal aliens back to Bogota? By the way, they're going to, a couple more of these flights, and I'm telling you, they're going to trash that whole thing. Like they're going to, you want these gangbangers to be on your presidential plane? Hey, okay. Hey, your bar is gone. Do you understand? Everything that you have, every bottle that you have in your bar is gone. And they're probably going to tear up your gold-plated toilet. So I'm just saying, you're not going to have much of a plane left. Okay, if you keep doing this. But to me, I'm thinking, okay, fine, I don't care. It even saves us money. Because remember, we're paying for these flights back to Colombia on our cargo planes, okay, our military cargo planes. Let the Colombians then pay for it. If they're so stupid and so corrupt that you think, literally, drug traffickers, gangbangers, and child molesters deserve the presidential red carpet treatment, then, hey, you pay for it, you take them. Now, let me just add one more point, and then I promise I want to open it up to you, the great audience of Kuhner Country. The Mexican government, they're also now, they have a new president, just like the one in Colombia, far leftist, very anti-American, okay? She's making a lot of noise against Trump. They don't want to take these illegals from Mexico. They're not going to accept these illegals from Mexico being returned. You took them in, you keep them. So she's now talking a very tough game. Over the weekend, this is why Trump had to lay down the law now. Over the weekend, she also rejected and sent back a massive plane, deportation plane, carrying hundreds and hundreds of Mexican criminal illegal aliens. And the same thing. Drug traffickers, drug dealers, murderers, rapists, gangbangers. So I understand from their point of view who wants these animals. Like seriously, who wants them? But I'm sorry. You encourage them. You told them to go to the United States. They're your citizens. Ultimately, they're your problem. They're not our problem. She refused the deportation flight. Now, Trump is going to have to decide what to do with Mexico. Mexico is a little bit tougher. Why? It's our largest trading partner. It used to be Canada. Canada used to be number one. Canada now is a very close second, but Mexico is our largest trading partner. So Trump I think he's going to go heavy on the tariffs, but he doesn't want to start a trade war with Mexico unless he really has to. So what he did by doing this to Colombia is he sent a message to Mexico. You could be next. Don't turn away another deportation flight. As I said on X last night, Mr. President, now do this to Mexico. First Colombia, then Mexico, than any other country. Yes? No? 632 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, Mexico says they will not take their criminal illegal aliens. Once we start, actually, they've already turned back at least one cargo plane that Trump is now deporting. The leftist government in Brazil has said, no, por favor. no, thank you. No, thank you. So Mexico says no. Brazil says no. Maduro in Venezuela says no. Colombia yesterday under Gustavo Petro, they said no. Trump said, you're going to get a massive tariff and sanctions. They have now completely surrendered. They're now going to be taking back all of their illegals. My question to you, do you support Trump's hawkish policies now on countries that will not take back their illegal aliens once we start deporting them? I say he's completely right. Ultimately, they're citizens of those countries. They have no business being in our country, and we're just sending them back to their country of origin. You don't want them? Then I'm sorry. We're going to hit you with tariffs, sanctions, travel bans, visa bans. You're going to rue the day. it's not worth it. You sent them up, El Norte, we're going to send them right back to you. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. Lines are jammed. Kiva in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Kiva, and welcome.
Viva la revolution, Trump revolution, Jeff. Thank you. Every day it's like a Christmas present. I get to open up. I'm still geeking out about the ice raids in Boston, and then I see Trump over in L.A. lambasting those lefty buffoons in L.A. And then, thank you, J.D. Vance, for getting Pete Hegseth through. Well played. And now this. Very well played by the maestro. And you're right, there's going to need to be a different tact here with Mexico as their number one trading partner. I can't wait to see what the maestro is going to do with this kind of poker hand that he's going to play. It's going to be amazing. But every day I wake up and I can't contain my glee. Thank you, Jeff. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Kiva. I appreciate it. No, look, it was another very strong weekend for Trump. I have to say, he had another really outstanding weekend. He got the Hegseth nomination over the line Friday night. I was pumping my fists, unlike Grace. I don't know. I don't know what Grace has against Hegseth. Anyway, but let that go. So she doesn't like him. She doesn't think he's qualified. Anyway, I'm like, relax. If he's not a good Secretary of Defense, Trump will fire him in 6 months. Give the guy a chance, for God's sake. He can't be worse than the previous Secretaries of Defense. I'll tell you this. So he got Hegseth over the finish line. J.D. Vance was the tie-breaking vote. Obviously, Collins, Murkowski, and Mitch the Squish, that Judas. So the three of them voted no, 50-50, but there was J.D. for the tiebreaker. And then, he ran circles around Karen Bass and Brad Sherman, that Moonbat, California congressman out in L.A. So I got to tell you, he's on a roll. But then yesterday, he broke Colombia. He literally broke them in 2 hours. And already now, Brazil is singing a different story. Now, Venezuela, that nutbag, okay, that nut job, Maduro, he's like, we'll go to war to prevent our illegals from being returned. Okay, you do that. Okay, El Presidente, you do that, tough guy. So Trump is going to break them one by one by one. And the biggest and the most important is going to be Mexico. And apparently in this morning, I'm just going by this morning's news, Trump is now saying, unless you start taking back your illegals, and we're going to deport them. We're already deporting them. But unless you start taking them back, 25 to 30% tariff next week. And if you don't like that, it's going to be a 50% tariff. In other words, I'm going to bring the Mexican economy to its knees. Trump is now saying the days of Uncle Sucker are over. The illegals are going to be returned. And the most violent and criminal of them are going first. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. Russ in Boston. Thanks for holding, Russ, and welcome.
God bless President Trump. He is the red tape overrider. Get her done, get her done, get her done. Let's face it, Jeff, the whole world depends on us purchasing their goods and services. Using our economic power, we can prevent conflict and get what we want. Trump is the master negotiator. No one is a better negotiator than he is. Our sweet land of liberty is back. My eyes have seen the glory of the coming of Donald Trump. His truth is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on. And I will end with this. I love President Trump in a non-sexual way.
Russ, I'm just curious, and I agree with you all the way, but I'm just playing devil's advocate for a second. Are you concerned that he may start a trade war, say with Mexico or Brazil, that this may lead some of these leftist presidents across not just Latin America, but in Africa, in Asia, places around the world, where they may start to form a bloc against us because they don't want their illegals to be returned to their country. What say you?
They'll never win this, Jeff. Remember one thing. There's communist bastards in China, okay? Without us buying their crap, they would be nothing. And that goes for the rest of the world.
I agree. No, we've got the leverage, and Trump is not afraid to use it. That's why I love the guy. Russ, as always, you're dead on. Thank you for that call, Russ. 617-266-6868. Okay, let me ask all of you, again, to play devil's advocate. They say it's inhumane, that it's degrading, that it lacks dignity to put their citizens, they say these are Colombians as an example, or the Mexican government is saying the same thing, to see Mexican criminal illegals put in handcuffs and then loaded onto military transport planes. They're saying this almost gives the impression like it's an invasion of our country. That our citizens are being, put in handcuffs, and not just their hand, but their feet are their feet are chained, their hands are chained, and then you bring it back to us in a military cargo plane. They say it's almost like it's an invasion of of Mexico or of Colombia. That if you're going to send them back, do it the way Biden did, although he didn't send many back. But the few that he did send back, that you put them on commercial airplanes. Say, I don't know, American Airlines, JetBlue, whatever. That you put them on commercial airlines, no handcuffs, and that they should be given a proper meal, a drink, and should be allowed to fly in commercially, so that this is not considered such a slap in the face to all of these countries now that have to just take plane load after plane load after plane load of illegal aliens. What say you? You know my answer. You sent them all the way up north, you take them back. And to me, you don't roll out the red carpet for gangbangers, drug traffickers, child molesters, the worst of the worst. That's why they're in handcuffs. They invaded our country, and we're going to send them back. You're just lucky we don't drop them from the sky in a parachute. That's, by the way, what many of you, I'm not kidding, many of you, good friend of mine, John, said, Jeff, you know what? If it was good enough for the 82nd Airborne when we stormed the beaches of Normandy to liberate Europe, our boys had to go from the sky, parachuted in. It should be good enough for these criminal illegals. So you won't take our people? You won't take your people on our cargo flights? No problem. We'll just slap on some parachutes. Out you go. Pull the string. Best of luck. Next. Pull the string. Best of luck. Just parachute them back. If a cargo plane is too insulting and handcuffs, we can just drop them from the sky in parachutes. 617-266-6868. Again, I want to stress this. These are illegal aliens with criminal backgrounds who have committed some of the most violent, heinous crimes. And they're complaining that they're not being given first-class flights back? Loco. 649 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, this is from 603. You can text the Kuhner man, 70470. And I'm telling you, 603 is speaking for many of you. Jeff, it's not just Colombia. If any other nations resist, I don't care. Ukraine, Russia, Turkey, it just goes on, country after country. The answer is parachutes. If they were good enough for the 82nd Airborne on D-Day, they're good enough for criminal aliens. I'm with you. I'm with you, 603. Well, no, hey, at least this first round of Colombian illegals, these criminals, they're getting the presidential plane. I'm like, okay, hey, you guys want to pay for it on top of it all? Go ahead. There won't be much left of that plane by the time it lands in Bogota, but hey, you want them? You put them on your plane. 617-266-6868. Now, just one last little factoid. The El Presidente of Colombia, okay, again, this Marxist thug, Gustave Petro, says, listen to this, that when the presidential plane lands with these Colombian criminal illegals, they're going to be greeted by the government, flags, and a parade. I'm like, so gangbangers, you're going to welcome them back in with a parade and flags? Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. Now you know why that poor country's a mess. When you have leaders like that, you don't have a chance. 617-266-6868. Lisa in Stoughton. Thanks for holding, Lisa, and welcome.
First of all, I would like to say I'm sorry about the loss of your dad. I actually commented on your post on Facebook, but I didn't see if you've seen it or not.
Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. I want to talk about these illegals. I've had 2 incidents happen to me recently, one being yesterday. I was at the Prestige gas station in Canton trying to get a car wash, and something was going on with my credit card, and then there was a pile of cars behind me. So I tried to call the 1-800 number, the customer service number, thinking somebody was in there working. And this guy came, and he was like Guatemalan or Mexican or whatever. And he comes to me, and he's like, and I told him I was trying to call customer service. He's like, well, you Americans don't work on weekends. You guys are lazy. And I said, excuse me? And I told him where to go and how to get there. And then I'm backing up, and it was so embarrassing and everything, and I took off. But then there was another incident where I'm going to report him, too, and I'm going to make sure he's fired, but where I was at Kohl's, and Kohl's was going out of business over in Stoughton, and a lady had told me that all the illegals went in there, grabbed what the heck they wanted, ransacked the place, and walked out, and they didn't even arrest them. So we live in a lawless country because of this, and they're all hibernating in all the hotels around us and stuff. And I say get rid of them all because it's just causing nothing but chaos. It's causing accidents. They're just causing so much trouble. And they don't even like us, and they're here. That's what makes me so sick to my stomach. They don't even like us. They just want their opportunists. They just take what they have, what they want and everything, and that's it.
Well, Lisa, look, you really anticipated what I was going to say. Because, and again, this is not unique to me. Many of you are saying the same thing to the Kuhner man, whether it's emails, texts, or on Messenger. But, look, so it's a slap in the face to put them in handcuffs and put them on military cargo planes to send them back to their home countries. Apparently that's a slap in the face. But when we give them free hotels, when we give them catered meals, when we give them prepaid Visa cards, or free health care, or free education, or free computers, or free laptops, or literally free cell phones, then it's not a slap in the face. Huh? So when we give them everything, most things we don't even do for our own citizens, and they're still a bunch of ingrates. To me, that's what I just find incredible. The attitude of the leaders of all of these countries. And you're right, many who come in here, these illegals, I told you, they're squatters. They're squatters. A squatter is not grateful. See, this is what I keep trying to tell people. The difference between a legal and an illegal alien, okay, or a legal and illegal immigrant, okay, if you want to be technical about it, it's not quote-unquote documentation That's what the left keeps saying. Now, one has a piece of paper and the other one doesn't have a piece of paper. No, it's everything. A legal immigrant is the equivalent of someone who's dating your son, dating your daughter, has shown themselves over the years to love that person, to want to be part of your family, and then asked, to be married. And then, the answer is yes, obviously. And then they're welcomed into your home. An illegal is a squatter. An illegal breaks into your home and then mooches off your home, lives in your basement, eats your fridge, eats out of house and home, raids your medicine cabinet. And is the squatter grateful? The squatter is never grateful. The squatter acts like, I own this. This is mine. I'm entitled to it. That's why illegals are not welcome anywhere in the world. And they send them up here because they can't fix their own problems in their own countries. Mexico has been mismanaged and misruled for 100 years. Colombia, the same thing. I could go on, country after country. But instead of dealing with your poor, dealing with your criminals, dealing with the mess that, frankly, your socialist, Marxist, leftist policies have caused, dump them on America. Let the Americans take care of them. And that's why Trump is saying, look, we're not going to take any more of your people in your prisons and your mental asylums. We're not going to take care of your worst of your worst. So I'm with you all the way, Lisa. Homan and Trump deport every single illegal. They hate us. They only want to use us. They're a bunch of parasites and leeches. And I'm telling you, they're destroying us. We cannot continue to go down this road. No country can. Final word to you, Lisa.
I agree 100%. What about the vet that froze to death in his wheelchair in Brockton, Massachusetts? That wasn't covered on the media. He froze to death in his wheelchair, a veteran, and we got these illegals cozied up in these hotels, sitting there, multiplying and everything, trying to make anchor babies, and I just think it's disgusting. Meanwhile, we have vets on the streets freezing because we have a cold winter, and they have nowhere to go.
Lisa, I couldn't have said it better myself, really. Look, the only good news, Lisa, the good news is Trump is starting to slowly, it's going to take time. Biden let in 20 million. So, you can't deport 20 million overnight. It's going to take time. But Trump is now cleaning up his mess. And the other thing, I don't know if you saw that story, Lisa, he has broken Maura Healey like an egg. He cracked her like an egg. So she now has done a complete reversal. So she's going to stand up to Trump. She's going to order Boston PD, the state troopers. You're not going to cooperate with ICE and these raids, and we're a sanctuary state now and forever. And we're going to obstruct Trump. And all Trump said were two words. Okay? He said, arrest you. That's all he said. He goes, I'm going to order my people to arrest you, and we're going to cut federal funding. So the money supply from the federal government's going to dry up, and I swear to you, if you're aiding and abetting illegals, we're going to put handcuffs on you. And all of a sudden, she wasn't so tough anymore. So the only good thing is, Eric Adams in New York says now he's going to cooperate. Hochul says she's going to cooperate. You've got Healy saying now she's going to cooperate. So slowly but surely, la résistance is starting to crumble. So we just got to be patient, Lisa. Let Trump, let Homan do their thing. And I think they can do this in a couple of years. If they really, are focused and concentrate on what they need to do. If they stick to their goals, they're going to send most of them back. I think within a couple of years. And they got to hit the employers. Employers have to face massive fines and penalties if you're caught hiring an illegal. And you got to cut off all the welfare. You cut off the welfare and you prevent them from being able to get employment. Many of them are going to self-deport. You don't need the cargo planes. They got nowhere to go but back home. Lisa, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. Mark in Medford. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you on this lovely Monday?
Very good. Honestly, Mark, yesterday I loved that news about Colombia, and I want more of it.
Well, Jeff, there's a new sheriff in town, and his message is this: you do not mess with the U.S. End of story. Right there, Jeff. Now, as far as the Colombian president, this is straight out of the scene in The Godfather when Michael Corleone, sitting at his desk, tells Senator Geary, you know what? My offer is this: nothing. And I would appreciate it if you put up the fee for the gaming license. Because I wouldn't put it past Trump if he told the president, you know what? And I would appreciate it if you use your plane to help us get more illegal immigrants on here. I guarantee you Trump had something to do with that as well.
You know, Mark, I didn't even think of that. Mark, I got to tell you, that just shows how perceptive you are. I did not think of that. I thought it was like, here's this president who's just been humiliated, showboating in front of his people, like, you know what? The hell with their cargo planes. I'm gonna send them the presidential plane. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. I bet Trump said, you know what now? You're not even getting the cargo planes because that was our gas and those are our planes and that's our money. As you put it, no. Now you're paying for it. You're going to send your presidential plane. You're going to pay now for these illegals being deported. Mark, let me ask you this. Can he do the same thing with Mexico? Mexico is not Colombia. 100 million people, our biggest trading partner. I know he can crash their economy if he wants, but it will have some consequence here at home. And he obviously wants to keep the economy booming here. Does he have to be a little more careful with Mexico, or do you think he should do the exact same thing?
I think he might have to be a little more careful with Mexico, Jeff, but you know what? Screw it. Do the same thing, because once they're running around in Mexico, they're going to fall in line real quick, and every other country that has a problem with this, they're also going to fall in line real quick, Jeff. I'm going to be honest with you. I think putting these people in military planes is too good for them. If it was me, and forgive me for saying this, but I would have put them in the hull of a ship and let them sail back to their country and let it take forever to get there. Let them suffer like they made people suffer here by selling fentanyl, by killing people, by raping kids, by raping women and everything else. That should be some of their punishment as well.
Mark, thank you very, very much for that call. Again, this is what I find, it's just mind-boggling. Again, I want to stress this. These people that are being deported now, this is the very tip of the first phase. They're all, as I said, 99.999999%. You're saying, well, Jeff, why aren't you saying 100%? Because maybe one somehow through the cracks is not a violent criminal, okay? But like 99.9999%, we're talking about criminal records as long as my arm, either from the country they're from or what they've committed here. And that's why that big raid out of Chicago, I don't know if you saw that one. Oh, man, on Tren de Aragua. Tom Homan was there in person. And he's listening. He goes, here, pedophile, child rapist, fentanyl trafficker, murdered one guy, drove drunk, killed a 19-year-old woman in Chicago. 19-year-old, I believe an Hispanic woman, was killed in Chicago. 19-year-old woman, an American woman, was killed by one of these, I think this one wasn't, I think it was Guatemalan. I think it was from Guatemala. But anyway, whatever. And he's like listing one after the other, after the other, after the other. And he's like, we got to fight resistance to deport these people? Pritzker is the governor of Illinois. Pritzker is defending them. Brandon Johnson, that moonbat mayor of Chicago, if it's possible, I swear, he's even crazier than Karen Bass in L.A. or Michelle Wu here in Boston. You say, come on, Jeff, nobody's crazier. No, I'm telling you, he's crazier. Or that, you know that guy out of Denver? That Moonbat out of Denver? Okay, the one who had Trend Aragua, destroying his city. Okay, even crazier than that guy. And he's like, we're going to stand up for them. If I got to send in the local police, there's going to be a shootout between the police and ICE. Then let it happen. You defend them? And I'm like, so hold on. I've got a murderer. I've got a gangbanger beside me. And I'm not supposed to put him or her in a handcuff? No? I'm supposed to, on American Airlines first class? That's what you want me to, that's what, you want us to send them back first class? See, this is what I don't understand. How these liberals will bend over backwards, not just to accommodate foreigners, not just to accommodate illegals, lawbreakers, criminals, but the most violent, disgusting criminals on the planet over their own citizens. 617-266-6868. Tommy in West Virginia. Thanks for holding, Tommy, and welcome.
Okay, Jeff. So let's go back to the topic of E-Verify. That was first bantered about in Bill Clinton's second administration when Newt Gingrich and the Republicans controlled the House and the Senate. All right? They wouldn't pass it because the Chamber of Commerce, your Mitt Romney Republicans, oh, no, we can't do that. We have to exploit labor like that. All right? And the AFL-CIO back then was pushing, you've got to have E-Verify. Bill Clinton, Joe Biden, Barack Obama have all said in the past that illegal immigrants undercut wages, undercut our laws. Now they've done complete reversals. And I'm just beside myself of the hypocrisy that goes on. And here's the other thing, and I pray to God there is a white liberal that went to Boston University or one of the major universities listening to my voice as I speak. These are the same people that say, oh, if you're a Christian, you're not a Christian, for not accepting these people in here. Well, number one, it's better to be a wise welcomer than a foolish friend. Number two, these are the same people that do what you and I do. We file long form on our taxes. Why? We deduct our property taxes, our mortgage interest, and all the above, so we don't have to pay as much money to the state and the federal government. Why are we doing that? We're basically greedy. Now, these people, they have the option in Massachusetts to claim a higher income tax, as well as they don't have to file long form, and they can pay more money to the federal government. And I'm going to post that on my Facebook page because I'm going through it with one of my ex-classmates that used to work for the Associated Press, and he is a sanctimonious windbag that hired Guatemalans to do his roofing. Well, here's the reality with many of these hardworking immigrants from Latin America. Many of them are hired as subcontractors to a roofing contractor. That means they're getting 1099 forms at the end of the year. A 1099 form, you, the subcontractor, are responsible for federal taxes, state taxes, and Social Security taxes. You're basically going to lose the third. All right? Many of these people will never file that. And it's a very big difference between a W-2 wage earner of what I was in the IBEW as an electrician. Okay? So, like I say, and the other point is with hiring these migrants that are doing this type of work, that employer or that contractor does not have to cover them under workman's compensation as he would a W-2 wage earner. So here's the point. If Chico falls off your roof out in Newton and he breaks his leg, guess what? He can turn around and sue you, the homeowner. Okay? But if Chico is a W-2 wage earner, his employer has workman's comp insurance to cover him for the damages or the injuries he gets on the job. And those are the dirty little secrets that the National Public Radio and these other tools on MSNBC will never tell you. And that sanctimonious white liberal that I went to high school with, those people are probably working for about 2/3 the wages of a native-born Massachusetts roofer that may be black, he may be Cape Verdean, he may be white, he may be Irish, or whatever, okay? So I'm sick and tired of this nonsense from this, oh, you're not a Christian. Give me a break.
Oh, well said. Really well said, Tommy. Tommy, thank you very, very much for that call. And again, look, I've said this a million times. You know, if we need more labor, okay, just for the sake of argument, I'm telling you we don't, but just if we do, then bring them in legally. What's the problem? They're properly vetted. We know who they are. In other words, this is Trump's argument, and it's been from the beginning. Why don't we just have a regulated, legal immigration system? The Kuhner man. I came into this country illegally. I was vetted. I had criminal background checks. I was able to sustain myself. I wasn't a burden on the taxpayers. On and on and on and on. So what's wrong with that? That's how most countries in the world for all of human history have operated. But no, you have to open up the borders and just let everybody come in. And we're all supposed to stand there and be stupid and pretend like nothing is going on as everything starts collapsing around us. And finally, Trump's saying, look, enough is enough. We just can't sustain this. Nobody can. 617. Thank you very much for that call, Tommy. Look, illegal aliens undercut wages. They break our laws repeatedly. And they're taking jobs that many Americans need and many Americans want. It's bad all around. 720 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, liberalism's worst nightmare. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, as regards to the Colombian president, really a Marxist, communist strongman. This is a really good message I got from Penny on Messenger. Jeff, my husband is from Colombia. He cannot stand the president from Colombia. He was a former Marxist guerrilla commander. They had a nickname about him. I don't want to use it only because it hasn't been corroborated. But anyway, it has to do with some really vile things he allegedly did. However, the guerrillas that he was part of, quote, their signature kill mark was to cut the victim's throat and take out the tongue and then let that person bleed to death. Okay, that's the kind of sicko, the kind of psychopath that they have running Colombia. My husband was gleeful watching Trump's strength yesterday. He only wishes Trump would have gone farther and say that the family members of the Colombian president, Gustavo Petro's government in the U.S., for example, many of them attend university, should immediately have their visas revoked and be sent back. This would really affect the top 1% of the country that supports this monster. Well, that's what he did initially, Penny. I mean, to be fair to Trump, I hear you. You're completely right. But part of it wasn't just the tariff that he threatened, the 25% tariff. He said a complete travel ban and revoke all visas of the government, family members, or anybody, if friends even, affiliated with Petro here in the United States. So honestly, we're all thinking, oh, it was the tariffs, because that would have destroyed, really, that would have crippled Colombia's, coffee exports, oil, gold, fresh cut flowers. But maybe it was the sanctions and the visa bans. Maybe he's thinking, hey, my family, they'd be screwed. If they can't, hey, they're in Harvard now. They're in Princeton. They're in Yale. No. I can't have them lose that ticket. That's the key to their power. So whatever it was, Trump's leverage worked. And now apparently Colombia has done a complete reversal. They've done an about face. And now they're going to be taking all of the criminal illegals that we're going to round up. 617-266-6868 is the number. Jimmy in Dorchester. Thanks for holding, Jimmy, and welcome.
Jeff, first off, I want to start, Jeff, I went to high school with a whole bunch of ex-police officers. Their sons are Boston police officers. They named me towns that they hope Tom Holman said he's going to go in the schools, the churches, and he's going to the hospitals. But they started telling me that there's places that he hopes they hit because their hands are tied by our governor and by the mayor that we have in this, these corrupt politicians, they call them. And they said they hope they go into Lawrence, Framingham. They go into, Lawrence,
Chelsea's got to be there on that list. I agree. Lawrence and Framingham is, just inundated with illegals. But, Chelsea, Quincy, there's a lot of, honestly, for Holman and ICE, this is a target-rich environment. But please, keep going, Jimmy.
All right, another thing they said, they got to go into the schools, especially the high schools, Revere High School, because the illegals are there in their late 20s, and they're bullying the kids, and they're selling drugs to them, and they think they're 16, 17, where the idiots in them schools don't realize these guys are older than what they look. And they said Dorchester, Revere, what was the other one they said? That's Brockton, where they've had incidents in there, and they won't come out and tell you the truth. It's been these people selling drugs and telling the kids to buy the drugs from them, forcing them.
Jimmy, I got to ask you, in all seriousness, everybody knows what's going on in these areas, in these communities, and it's all over the country. Jimmy, just to add to this, there was a principal in Texas, I forget where, but near the southern border, but he came out and said, Holman's got to come here, now. And they're like, why? 80 to 90%, he said, of the students in our high school are illegals. And just what you said, many of them dealing drugs, cocaine, heroin, fentanyl. He said it is an epidemic. Jimmy, why don't local officials do anything? They know what's happening. Is this what they want? No, really. Do they want our kids being hooked on drugs? Do they want our kids to be overdosing? Again, I'm not talking about a single mom with 2 kids who's, working. I'm talking about stone cold drug dealers and drug traffickers who are killing our children. And Michelle Wu does nothing? The local mayors do nothing? Healy does nothing? It's beyond disgraceful. Agree, disagree, more next. 7:31 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, this is from 603. The text line is on fire. Jeff, I think President Trump is taking a much nicer approach than I would by initially sending these criminal illegal aliens back down to Colombia on military C-130 transport planes. If it were me, I'd be shipping them down there on Chinook transport helicopters, escorted by Apache helicopter gunships, and just drop them right off on the beaches of Colombia. Either that, or strap life vests on them and dump them 100 feet offshore and tell them to swim home. Life vests are quite a bit cheaper than parachutes. No, really, again, look, I don't want to belabor this point, but I just find it incredible. Again, you're talking about, these are gangbangers that they're sending back. Murderers, child molesters, drug dealers, drug traffickers. And you're complaining they're in handcuffs? And that they're being sent back on a military cargo plane? Like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? One more, and then I want to go to the phone lines. This is from a former law enforcement officer who I have nothing but the highest respect for. Good morning, Jeff. This is referring to Lisa in Stoughton's call. And he said, Lisa in Stoughton is completely right. She's not wrong. All of our motor vehicle insurance premiums are through the roof, due in part to illegals driving without licenses, leaving the scene of accidents. And this results in American citizens paying for their mistakes and carelessness. No, I know, that's a whole new dimension that people don't even talk about. How many of them drive with no insurance? How many of these illegals drive with no licenses? They don't know the language at all. They can't read the road signs. I mean, how many accidents they get involved in and just flee? Or they don't have any insurance whatsoever, so you have to eat the costs, or all of us, because our insurance premiums go up. We're constantly paying for all this on so many levels. It's not just the mooching off the system. It's everything else that comes with it as well. And that's why Trump is saying, look, we've now hit 40 million illegals in our country. 40 million. We're going to go bankrupt. Never mind the crime, the murders, the drugs, just never mind all of that. Just, you cannot, that's Canada. That's 40 million is the population of all of Canada. You can't sustain this. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay. Very, very quick. I want to get your take on this as well. Let me throw a little log on the fire. As you know, Tom Homan now and Trump have come out and said, for many years, illegal aliens, and someone just briefly touched on it, one of the previous callers, have been allowed to get sanctuary or safe harbor in schools and in churches. ICE is not allowed or discouraged from conducting any raids at schools and at churches. Churches, obviously, because they're places of worship. Schools, because there's a lot of kids, a lot of children there. And so it has been a way for a lot of illegal aliens to constantly evade ICE and evade being deported. The U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, along with the leaders of many, not all, but many Protestant denominations, liberal denominations, I may add, have come out now blasting the new Trump policy of saying ICE can go wherever it wants, and if they have to go into a church, they will go into a church. If they have to start raiding schools to get especially some of these illegal alien drug traffickers and drug dealers, we're going to get them. And this is a zero tolerance policy now. And they're warning the churches, don't hide them because we're going in. And if we find out you're hiding them, you may lose your tax exempt status, or we may even hold you liable as well. Many liberal Protestant denominations, some liberal Jewish rabbis, and the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops have now come out and said, this is an attack on religion. This is an attack on the sanctity of churches, of temples, of places of worship, and that they are now urging that their priests, pastors, synagogues, rabbis, whatever, everybody, that they resist the ICE raids. Now, the argument that many of them are making is this is unchristian. That Jesus would welcome the illegal. Jesus walks with the illegal. Jesus said, clothe the naked, feed the poor, the hungry, give water to the thirsty, take care of the stranger. And so this is their argument, that these raids and these deportations are immoral, unethical, and ultimately unchristian. and that Christians have a duty to resist Trump's immigration crackdown and his deportation of illegals. And to sum it all up, even Pope Francis now, the Red Pope, he has now weighed in publicly, saying that Trump's deportations are a quote-unquote moral calamity. And so I got, for example, an email. I don't know if I should use their names or not because they didn't give me permission, but they're a husband and wife, faithful listener of the show, where they told me they went to a church, St. Paul John II church, whereby there was a priest who gave a homily, and this priest was from Latin America, a left-wing priest, very left-wing, here on a visa himself. And from the pulpit, gave a homily on the glories of open borders and unlimited third world immigration. And and I believe them because I've been reading their emails and their messages to me for years. They said, Jeff, it was a political sermon. It was a political speech. It's literally something Kamala Harris could have delivered. And according to this priest, very few illegals are criminals. Most are good, decent, honorable people who just want to work hard, be productive, take care of their families, and that Jesus walks and stands with them, and that it is unchristian, in fact, un-Catholic, to support Trump's deportations. That this is an attack on the poor, on the innocent, and on the vulnerable. Now, I got many people were saying, the homily from the priest of the mass that we attended did throw in this line about take care of the migrants, but it wasn't the focus of his homily. But I had a lot of other people saying, Jeff, I don't know if there was an order given by the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, or it came straight from the Holy See, from Pope Francis himself. But it was all, Trump is bad, these deportations are wrong, Christ stands with the illegals, and that the Catholic Church now is taking an open public position, at least the leaders are, against Trump's immigration crackdown and his deportations. Now, let me just say this, okay? As a devout Catholic, as a devout practicing Catholic, that priest at St. John Paul II Church who delivered that homily should be ashamed of himself. You come from another country on a visa. I understand you're here legally. I get that. That's fine. And you lecture us from the pulpit about what we should do in our own country? Mind your own business. That's, to me, is the point. The first point. Who the hell are you? So you abuse the privilege of the pulpit, the privilege of delivering a homily, to give a political screed on behalf of open borders and globalism, and urging the breaking of the law, because that's what these illegal aliens are. They're breaking the law. The last time I checked, Jesus didn't defend murderers. He didn't defend child molesters. He didn't defend rapists. So you're condoning and defending many of these illegals who are committing the most heinous crimes? Now, as for feeding the hungry and giving water to the thirsty and clothing the naked, that's what their governments in their countries are there for. When did we suddenly become the Salvation Army for the world? We can barely take care of our own people. And you want us to take care of the world? Jesus was not a socialist. And my friends, what they're preaching is blasphemy. 749 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, my friends, let me ask you, Should ICE raids be conducted in churches or in schools? Tom Homan and Trump say yes, nothing is off the table. However, many religious leaders, it's not just the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, as I said, many Protestant denominations, even many Jewish groups, rabbis have come out and said places of worship are sanctuaries. They are not to be there for law enforcement actions, and they are strenuously opposing any raids on any churches or synagogues, as well as on any schools. Should ICE raids be done in those two areas? I say yes. I think it is disgraceful and shameful that places of worship are being used as shields or a cover to harbor criminal, illegal aliens. You are openly defying the law, and you are openly helping people who have no business being in our country. Now, let me just say one other quick point. J.D. Vance made this point in his brilliant interview with Margaret Brennan on CBS. He destroyed her. And his point is, he's a Catholic like myself, a devout Catholic. And J.D. Vance said, look, the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops needs to look at itself in the mirror. They've been receiving over $100 million a year. Now, they're not the only ones. Many other religions, I know there's a prominent Lutheran denomination that also gets a ton of cash. So it's not just the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, okay? But still, Catholic Charities gets over $100 million a year to quote-unquote resettle the migrants. Are they more interested in what's right and what's humanitarian, or in the bottom line? Follow the money. Because the Catholic Church and these other religious denominations, all of them who are involved in this, are complicit in the trafficking of children. Under Biden, 300,000 children trafficked into the United States under these open borders have disappeared. So, you are now getting involved effectively in modern day slavery and human and child trafficking? And you're trying to claim that this is what Jesus would want or Jesus would do? But in reality, you're taking over $100 million? And that's what I told my wife, my wonderful wife, Grace, yesterday. I said, no, they're trying to dress up this high moral principle to cover up the fact that they're taking all this cash. And that's why they want many illegals in their churches or in their synagogues or wherever it is in their places of worship. Follow the money, baby. So, no, I think Pope Francis should be ashamed of himself for getting involved in something that he has no business getting involved in, and for literally now making himself complicit in modern-day human trafficking and modern-day slavery, which is what illegal immigration is. It's the cartels that are making out like bandits. It's the human traffickers that are making out like bandits. And yes, if you're harboring illegals in a church or in a school or I don't care wherever, I should go in and get them. Period. Illegal is illegal is illegal. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868 is the number. Rob in Dedham. Thanks for holding, Rob, and welcome.
Jeff.
Rob, buddy.
1-866-347-2423. Let's drop a dime on the illegals, okay? Nice and easy. I guess there's a bounty of $750 per illegal. So number one, Moho Healy is never telling the truth. She's not going to tell the truth about anything. She and Mayor Rudeau there, they're gonna play lawfare until the cows come home. Now, I'm sorry, Jeff. I don't care. They all got to go. And I don't know. No one's explained to me. I had a guy tell me he owned a small business. I said, listen, buddy, the way you set your business up is you set your business by yourself, and if you need help, you bring in all the invaders. Okay, so you're making out. You're just as bad. And if you go under, that's tough. That's tough noogies. Okay, that's tough. Who cares? Why don't you just hire American citizens and do it correctly? No answer. You know, Jeff.
Rob, I want to read to you something I got from a texter. And you tell me, it's from 802. And you tell me if you agree or disagree. Jeff, all of these churches, all of these denominations, all of these liberals are crying for illegals. Well, if illegals that are being deported are such good people, why don't their native countries want them back? Rob, if these are the dreamers, as they keep telling us, the best of the best, the most hardworking, the most ambitious, the most intelligent, my God, diversity is our strength and we're so blessed to have them, then how come Mexico doesn't want them? How come Brazil doesn't want them? Colombia doesn't want them. Venezuela doesn't want them. Nobody wants them. China doesn't want them. Ukraine doesn't want them. Moldova doesn't want them. Nobody wants them, Rob. What say you?
The Palestinians. No one wants them, okay? No one wants them. It's all a lie, Jeff. The H-1B visa, that was a whole lie. It's all lies. The purpose is, in Massachusetts, they've got 280,000 of them that's been registered. And by the way, I want the audit, Mo and Michelle, and I want the names of who these invaders are, because after all, we need to know that if they're stealing money from everybody in here. And you talk about insurances, Jeff. You know, I was down in Brockton doing a drive along when I was running for office with the Brockton police. All these people have cars, and they're all registered because of loopholes by moonbats. And as far as that goes, hey, we got to get on top of these sheriffs too, Jeff. Tompkins and Jerry Moonbat McDermott there. They hold the key to a lot of this stuff with the sheriffs. They're complicit as hell. We got to get on the phone with those people and say, hey, knuckleheads, these are all political appointments too. These are just numbskulls that are Democrat hacks in these positions. Forget it, Jeff. We're on our own out here. We're on the offense, and we hold them accountable. We want to see the audit. Where's the money going, and who are these people? Period. And they all. I'm a good Catholic, by the way, and the Catholics are probably trying to hide all the pedophiles. You know, I mean that's Father Shanley and all those guys. These people are bad news. Who cares about the poop over in
Well, I gotta tell you, look, Rob. I mean, look, as a Catholic, it's difficult for me to have to say this. Okay, I love the church, and the majesty and the tradition and the history of the church. But I think a major reason why they're taking so much money to resettle these illegals and these migrants is because they got to pay off all these settlements because of these sex abuse scandals. In other words, they desperately need the money because they hid these pedophile priests for so long. Now they have to settle with the victims, and they're starved for cash. And I thought that they're going on opposing Trump from the pulpit, openly, nakedly, politically, explicitly. They should be ashamed of themselves. And again, it pains me to say this because I really do love the papacy. I do. Okay. And I love the Vatican, looking at it from 2,000 years. But Pope Francis I'm sorry, but he's making a fool of himself. It's a calamity. It's an injustice, he says, to deport illegal aliens. While he's got 40-foot walls protecting him, while literally he just issued an edict 2 weeks ago, any illegal that crosses into Vatican territory is not just to be deported immediately, but will get a fine of $10,000 to $25,000 and maybe a prison sentence, maybe, of 1 to 4 years. So the Vatican won't take in one single illegal. But you're lecturing us? Ay, ay, ay. Rob, ay, ay, ay. Hey, it's time for him to resign. Like Pope Benedict. It's time for him to, I'm sorry, enjoy the last few years in retirement. Go back to Argentina. Rob, someone's got to say it. Rob, thank you very, very much for that call. I really appreciate it. 617-266-6868 is the number. Denise in Beverly. Thanks for holding, Denise, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. How are you? And I'm sorry
Good.
about your dad, Jeff. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Denise. Thank you.
Jesus would condemn all this too. There's no way that Jesus would condemn the murders, the drugs, cartels, and all this stuff, killing our kids. Families are killing their kids. It's awful. They're committing suicide and killing their children all over the place. Jesus would not condemn. You know what I mean? It's terrible. The Catholic churches, I'm a Catholic. I went to church every Sunday. My father made us get up every morning, go every Sunday morning, go to church. But you know what? There's a lot of things I don't believe in the Catholic Church and stuff. You know what I mean? I don't go there anymore. I go to a Christian church now if I do. But Jeff, Trump is doing a fantastic job. His face will be on Mount Rushmore. He will be. He's the best president ever. And I listened to Mark Levin last night. He was right on the money. He talked about everything he's been doing. Everything that Lincoln did and all those other presidents did, and that President Trump is like way over them. He's like the best. And I wanted to bring up something, Jeff. You mentioned Wu and Haley, right? Well, you know about my son and all that stuff. But anyways, my son's doing excellent. He works in Boston, big contracting business. He goes through MassCap all the time. So he sends me videos of the street. And before it was all the tents lined up and everything, well, I called Wu's office. I called the Boston police. They said I had to call Wu's office. So I called Wu's office. I complained about the tents. I complained about the drugs. My son would send me videos of the needles all over the street and people just flopped over. And then he sent me a video of a girl just flopping in the middle of the street. My son pulled over and he told the girl, please get out of the street. You're going to get killed. You're going to get killed. She couldn't even talk. She walked her way up to my son's car and asked him for money. And my son said, no, I'm not helping you with your drug addiction. But I called the Wu. I called the health department. I called Healy's office. And that's all I did was fight to fix that stupid mass cast. I said, these people need treatment. They need help. If you put them in jail, they'll get clean. You can give them the right to go get help. You know what I mean? If you go to jail for possession of drugs and needles, you have the chance to clean yourself up and think, well, maybe I can get treatment now. Maybe they can put him in a treatment facility now and help these people. But no, they let him. My son said the cops would just sit there and wait till someone overdoses. He sent me a video of some girl just overdosing. 5 times they gave her a Narcan. 5 times. And she couldn't wake up.
Denise, that's someone's daughter.
Yeah.
That's someone's sister. That's someone's niece. This is what I mean. This is killing us. All this is killing us. And that's why, look, I don't want to seem too negative or too doom and gloom because honestly, I'm really happy with what Trump is doing. I think he's had a magnificent first 7 days in office, beyond my expectations. I thought he was going to have an outstanding opening week. No one thought it was going to be this good. And so, look, just stand back objectively. He has sent 1,500 U.S. troops to the southern border. He's going to send another 8,500, 10,000 troops have already been deployed. They have secured the southern border. They're already building. They're going to finish the wall in California, in New Mexico. They are deporting people at huge rates now. They have reinstituted remain in Mexico. They've ended catch and release. I could just go just on the immigration front. He is moving at lightning speed. And you know what I find incredible, Denise, is I hear all of these left-wing liberal talking heads. Oh, there's so many deportations. Oh, this is so wrong. Oh, my God, he's out of control. Denise, listen to this. Trump has, the standard now that they've set is 1,200 to 1,500 criminal illegal aliens a day. A day. Okay? Basically, 450,000 a year. Okay? Now, that's gonna, you keep this up, that's gonna be a lot of criminals, a lot of murderers, a lot of pedophiles, a lot of drug dealers. But take Bill Clinton. People don't know this about Bill Clinton. In his 8 years in office, Bill Clinton, obviously with the Republican Congress pushing him, but still it was done under his watch, 12 million illegals were deported. 12 million. Now, he was in power for 8 years, so about 1.5 million a year. Not 400,000, not 500,000, 1.5 million a year. Now, I don't remember liberals and the media saying, oh my God, all these deportations, fascism, Nazism. I didn't see the church leaders coming out and saying, we're sanctuaries. Jesus would be said condemning this. Jesus walks with the illegals. They didn't say a word. So, Bill Clinton can deport 12 million illegals. Trump, he wants to deport 400, 450, 500,000. The worst of the worst. And the sky is falling. Honestly, it's disgusting. The misinformation, the disinformation, the propaganda, it's absolutely disgusting. And Denise, I want to bring it full circle to what you said. The money that we're spending on these hotels, on these catered meals, on the EBT, the welfare, the Visa cards, the free healthcare, everything. All right, we're literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars a year. Do you know the kind of drug rehab centers we could have if we redirected those resources? We could stop drug trafficking cold, fentanyl cold. We could have people going to rehab. We can save lives. We can rehabilitate lives. We could do so much with this. It's time to put our people first. And I'm so happy you called, because you look at Mass and Cass, it's a nightmare. Homeless tents, young people shooting up. It's like something out of the Walking Dead. They're like zombies, desperate for their next fix. They're literally overdosing on the sidewalk, on the streets. And the cops are overwhelmed and their hands are tied because of Healy and Michelle Wu. And Trump is looking at this and saying, are you kidding me? You call yourself a mayor? You call yourself a governor? You're allowing this to happen to your own citizens? Denise, thank you very much for that call. 617. They should be, I'm telling you, liberals should be ashamed of themselves for what they've done to our country. 617-266-6868. Okay, super quick. Do you remember that Haitian gangbanger? Because ICE is conducting a lot of raids in Boston, okay? Chicago is ground zero. New York, Boston, Atlanta, we're kind of like second tier. I mean, high up, but Chicago is right now ground zero. But it's still a major front line. So ICE is now going in. They're cleaning people out. Remember the Haitian? There was a prominent Haitian. He was a gangbanger and a prominent drug dealer. And when he was captured, said, F Trump, Biden forever. You remember that? Okay. These are the types of people that Michelle Wu welcomed in and that Maura Healey welcomed in and that, frankly, Biden and Harris welcomed in. Okay? This is who the Boston Globe is shilling for. This is who the Moonbats are shilling for. Okay, I want you to listen now to this. This is Chris Hansen, and I want to give a hat tip to the Gateway Pundit because this is where I got the story from. So he's from To Catch a Predator. He's the host of To Catch a, basically child molesters, pedophiles, okay, the most evil of the evil, the most vile of the vile. So he's the host of To Catch a Predator. And he's with ICE now as they're on one of their raids. And he's helping ICE catch an illegal alien who is a pedophile, molesting and preying on children. Now, ICE finally gets him. Listen to the response. This is a pedophile from the illegal alien. Roll cut 14, Mike.
You gave her $50.
Yeah.
What was that for? The $50 was for sexo con chica 15 años.
No quería. Yo no quería. No quería yo.
Her niece was 15, and you said you wanted a from her and were going to pay her $50. Are you here in this country legally? Do you have U.S. citizenship?
Soy ilegal.
But you came here, Marvin, for sexo con chico 15 años. No. You could go back to Honduras.
No, por favor.
No, por favor. No go back. No go back. Don't send me back. No, por favor. He comes into this country illegal, even admits it. Illegal. 15-year-old girl. So I'll give you $50. Think Monica Lewinsky, okay? And Trump is deporting people like him. And the liberals are defending this? Jesus stands with him? 821 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let me paint a graphic picture for all of you, because this is going to happen. It's inevitable now. And you tell me if you agree or disagree. Think a church, and it could be any church. It could be an Episcopalian church, could be a Lutheran church, could be a Catholic church, obviously, or even say a synagogue from a more of a liberal Jewish denomination. And there are illegal aliens inside the church. They're hiding. They're in a sanctuary. They're praying, or they're just staying inside the church or the synagogue, whatever. Think of the images of ICE agents armed, guns, flashlights, wearing bulletproof vests, and they're coming in, storming into a church. Just the visual of it. 5, 8, 10, 15 of them coming in. And they're saying, you're under arrest, ICE agents, you're under arrest, everybody get down, or whatever. Put your hands behind your back, or, whatever, okay? And there's a priest or a pastor or a rabbi saying, stop, this is the house of God, this is a house of worship, what are you doing? This is no place for this. And there's someone rolling with a camera. Should Trump conduct ICE raids within churches? Now, I say yes, even though I know how the media is going to spin it and try to make it seem like these are, fascist, jackboots who are storming into a church. But I blame the pastor or the priest or whoever, the rabbi, whoever, for turning his place of worship or her place of worship into a sanctuary for illegals. Churches are not above the law. Synagogues are not above the law. Priests, pastors, rabbis, with all due respect, and I really mean this, are not above the law. You put yourself in that situation, and you put them in that situation. But the optics are not going to look good for many Americans. They're going to find it uncomfortable. So my question to you, it's the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Kelly Financial Services. Sorry, forgive me. Sponsored by Mario's. Sorry, this is a bad habit. Mario's. Quality roofing, siding, and windows. Okay? Poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Quality roofing, siding, and windows. Is Trump being too tough on illegal aliens? Is Trump being too tough in his immigration crackdown? A, yes. B, no. You know where I stand. I'm B all the way, baby. But that's me. I want to hear from you. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in national ER, wrko.com/Kuhner. Or if you prefer, I'm very active on X, as I was again last night. You can vote at my handle on X, at the Kuhner Report, Kuhn as in national ER. Lines are loaded. Dave in Rockport. Thanks for holding, Dave, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Dave.
You know, Jeff, the churches has no responsibility to even take them into the sanctuary or anything like that for the illegals coming in. And number two, Jeff, Trump's doing everything that he's supposed to do.
That's right.
And number three, Jeff, I would love to see Molly Healy in a jumpsuit. She let them all in. Mayor Michelle Wu let them all in. Put both of them in a jumpsuit. I'm sure there's a couple of other places they can send them also. And Jeff, at the same time,
Dave, I don't know, your friend or whoever you're with is loving it. Someone's laughing in the background. Yeah, put him in jumpsuits. No, Dave, she chickened out. See, this is what I'm saying. She's a coward. You know, she goes on, Larry Stop the Hammering O'Donnell and says, we're going to stop Trump, every tool in the toolbox to block him. The moment he threatens to cut off federal aid, the moment he says, we're going to arrest you for obstruction of justice and aiding and abetting illegals, suddenly, take as many as you want. Take them all if you have to. You phony, you fraud, you. Trust me when I tell you this, Trump is not the only one on fire. This audience is on fire. Whoa. Okay, 8:31 now on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, baby. 617-266-6868. Okay, this is from 508. And by the way, many of you are reacting to whether churches should be out of bounds for ICE raids. This is from 508. Jeff, I'm sorry, but churches, synagogues, schools, even hospitals are fair game. Churches were not out of bounds in Canada during COVID when Justin Trudeau sent his henchmen into the places of worship because of his insane lockdowns. Look what happened to that Canadian pastor, Pulowski. Oh, my God, they dragged him out of that church. They literally, he was a Protestant, I believe an evangelical, but please don't quote me on that, okay? But he was a brilliant, by the way, Protestant pastor and a very courageous man. And they dragged him out of his church. They dragged him out of his church. And then they put handcuffs on him and they arrested him right there on the street. And if you remember his famous line saying, arrest me, come on, do it the Gestapo way. Do it the Gestapo way. It was absolutely, you want to talk about shocking, disgusting. So I don't know what the left is talking about. And in fact, here, Mark in Medford on Messenger, to me, hit the nail right on the head. Right on the head. Jeff, yes, ICE should raid churches. If I remember correctly, didn't the left raid churches during the so-called pandemic of COVID-19? I'm asking for a friend, Jeff. Laugh out loud. They had no problem closing churches during the pandemic. They had no problem going into churches and shutting them down. They had no problem kicking out priests and pastors and reverends. They had no problem locking the doors. They had no problem kicking out parishioners, forcibly preventing them from going to Mass. So now, all of a sudden, it's a sanctuary. Now, all of a sudden, it's a safe harbor. It's, oh my God, the state has no business going into a place of worship. Yeah, well, that's about 4 years too late now. Nah, sorry. No, been there, done that. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, just very, very quick, because there's just so many good points being made. This is from Larry in Leominster. Jeff, Jesus sat with the sinners. He didn't sin with them. That's an excellent point. You know, they keep going on about feed the hungry, give water to the thirsty, clothe the naked. Why do you think we have missionaries? Look, I don't mind. Please, I'm very happy to contribute, in the collection plate. And that's what we do. We do it almost every week. Here, we just did it yesterday for missions in Latin America, missions in the Caribbean. So that's what the Catholic Church is, and other churches as well, obviously. Franklin Graham, Samaritan's Purse does an incredible job helping poor people around the world. What I'm saying is, this is what religious denominations do. Like Jesus, they go to their countries and they minister to the poor. Jesus never said, take in the entire world and put them all on welfare. Like, I'm sorry, where does he say that in the Bible? Oh, and by the way, take in the murderers, and take in the rapists, and take in the child molesters, and take in the gangbangers, and take in the sex traffickers. And while you're at it, make a nice buck. Rake in billions of dollars in cash from the government. Line your pockets in the process. This is such a perversion of fundamental Christian, frankly, religious teaching. I don't care if you're Christian, Jewish, Buddhist, Hindu, Muslim, whatever. I've never seen this before in my life. One more, and then I want to go right to the phone line. 617-266-6868. This is from Eric. And man, did he nail it. Jeff, if any religious establishment harbors, shields, or prevents deportations, then it is time to restrict tax benefits. American exemptions should only go to those religious institutions that uphold American laws. Churches and illegals both have no taxes in common. I never thought of that, but that's a very good point. That is a very, very good point. Illegals pay no taxes. Churches and synagogues pay no taxes. I'm not saying they should. They should be tax exempt, but not if you're being political and not if you're breaking the law. Anyway, Eric continues, Jeff, no priest is above the law. As soon as he steps out that church, lock them up for obstruction. And then this is Eric's final point. And I think it's a painful, but it's a truthful point. Jeff, the churches have been hiding pedophiles for decades. They switch them from church to church. So why are we so surprised that they will be sheltering some criminals to which they have crimes against children, for example, or rape, or they engage in murder and sex trafficking? Hasn't the church already been doing this for decades? There's a difference between a good church and a bad church. And there's a difference between a good priest and a bad priest. A good reverend or a good pastor and a bad reverend and a bad pastor. A good rabbi and a bad rabbi. And so when they preach open borders and the glories of illegal immigration from the pulpit, it's time for parishioners to say no. No. A, don't abuse your authority to talk politics. I'm here for my soul. I'm not here at a political rally. And B, don't pervert Jesus' name and message. It's heresy, it's blasphemy, it's disgusting. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. Susan in Salem. Thanks for holding, Susan, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. How are you?
Hi. I'm good. How are you, Susan?
I'm doing good. And again, sorry for your loss. Truly sorry.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Susan.
I have a story about like the priest sheltering people, and it's not like illegals, but they do. They were sheltering heads of state, politicians, at this monastery in New York. And my family was they were Catholic, and my two great aunts were head of St. Joseph's Order there. So we'd go visit, as kids. So fast forward, I met this man that I worked with, and they called him St. Peter. So I was like, why do they call you St. Peter? But he was at the monastery, and he was going to be a priest. And his job there was to stand at the door and collect envelopes of money. There was mafia people that came in, politicians, and so on and so forth. And then the prostitutes came in. And he ended up leaving because he was attacked. And this was like 55 years ago. And that's what happened. And I believe my two great aunts must have known about something like this. And it was very prevalent, and they hid that at that time. So they do it now. And it's just with the illegals, but it's all about the money, like you say.
Well, you're completely right. Susan, I would just say this is the difference, okay? Everything what you said is true. But they did it then, you always have these renegade parishes or priests, or, you have bad priests and bad parishes. I mean, that's been going on for thousands of years, okay? But it was on the down low, as they said. It was hidden. Okay, it's corrupt, obviously. It's disgusting, but it's corrupt. It's hidden. Forgive me. It's secretive. What's changed now is it's open. They're proud. It's explicit. It's naked. We will be sanctuaries for illegals. Blank you. We are not going to cooperate. In fact, we're going to openly oppose Donald Trump's deportations. We're going to stand with criminal illegals against the citizens. And it's not just in America. They're doing it all over. Italy now is deporting a lot of criminal illegals. The Vatican is sticking its nose, saying they're against the government of Giorgia Meloni. And Giorgia Meloni, who's a faithful Catholic, like many Italians, are like, what are you doing? So we're supposed to welcome these sexual predators and murderers in our community? Like, are you mad? Are you normal? Like, what is wrong with you? This is, to me, where they've changed. This is why, look, to me, Francis is flirting with heresy. You want my honest opinion? That's my honest opinion. He is putting socialism and globalism above the needs of his people and his flock. And that's why he's got to go. He needs to resign yesterday. 850 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, the man who's really the face and in many ways the driving force behind these mass deportations that are now taking place all across the country is none other than border czar Tom Homan. He's like out of central casting from an Old West movie. Really, he looks one of those like old time sheriffs, All that's missing, honestly, is the cowboy hat. Otherwise, he's playing it's like playing it's him to a T. He really is like an Old West sheriff. Well, listen now to Tom Homan on ABC saying we're just getting started. If all of you people in the media are already losing your minds, I'm telling you, take a Valium, because this is going to go on for years. We're starting with the worst of the worst. But if you're here illegally, eventually your number is coming up. We're going to deport every single one of you. Roll cut 10, Mike.
So is this what we will see every single day, ending in what the president has promised is millions and millions being deported?
Yes, but you can see the number steadily increase, the number of arrests nationwide as we open up the aperture. Right now it's concentrating public safety threats, national security threats. That's a smaller population. So we're going to do this on priority base, as President Trump's promised, but as that aperture opens, there'll be more arrests nationwide.
When you talk about the aperture opening, the estimates of perhaps those who have been convicted or arrested in the past, 700,000 to over 1 million. So after you do that, then you go after everybody who is there illegally.
If you're in the country illegally, you're on the table, because it's not okay to, violate laws of this country. You got to remember, every time you enter this country illegally, you violated a crime under Title 8, United States Code 1325. It's a crime. So if you're in the country illegally, you got a problem. And that's why I'm hoping those who are in the country illegally who have not been ordered removed by the federal judge should leave.
So basically self-deport. Yeah. Now, that's Martha Raddatz. Absolute. By the way, you want to talk about a hack. Oh, what a hack. I don't know who's worse, her or Stephanopoulos, okay? But she's like, well, okay, let's say, 700,000, 1 million. When are you going to stop? Now, this is my first question. Did it like light bulb? Ding. Why did Biden allow, by your own admission, there's 1 million murderers, rapists, molesters, drug traffickers, sex traffickers, child traffickers that you've allowed into the country? You never thought to call them out? You never asked Biden why? By the way, to this day, no one has ever asked Biden, just stand back objectively, but why? Why did you allow the murderers and the rapists and the child molesters and these drug traffickers? Why would you allow them into the United States? Why? Why? And honestly, Occam's razor, the theory of, Occam's razor, I subscribe to that. The simplest, most straightforward answer tends to be the one that's, right. And the simplest, most straightforward answer is you hate America. Why else would you do this? Think about it, okay? We're living on a farm together. Just, indulge me, okay? And I'm the big honcho. I'm Big Daddy, okay? I'm the patriarch of the family. And you're like, Dad, why are you're letting murderers onto our farm? Rapists, child molesters, drug dealers? Dad, why would you do that? There's only one explanation. Because I hate you. I want you guys to die. It's so obvious. Now, shit, they're going on. So now 1 million is too much. All right. 1 million? When are you going to stop? This is outrageous. Bill Clinton, I said it earlier, I want to repeat it. 12 million illegals deported under Bill Clinton. 8 years. 1.5 million per year. He deported, again, the Republicans in Congress were the ones who pushed him, but still, it was under his watch. 12 million. No? Then the sky didn't fall, huh? Now under Trump, oh my God. No. We don't do 12. We're going to do 40 million. Because he's right. If you're here illegally, get out. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. Jeff in Chelsea. Thanks for holding, Jeff, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Thank you very much. Now,
My
Jeff,
pleasure.
I believe it's all about money. The politicians, anybody who's corrupt in the police department and these federal departments, if they're getting bribes from the criminals, it's all about money. And also, too, if you look at the cartels in Mexico, it's either gold or lead. So they're intimidated because, you see, if they really start cracking down on illegal aliens, I mean local communities, guess what? They could be beheaded. They could be dismembered. Horrible things could happen to their families, worse than the Italian mob. Number 3, a lot of these people live in the suburbs. I'm talking about our political leaders. There's a firewall. They're not directly affected by it. So what do they care? So they make money, they live in the suburbs, and they avoid a bullet from the cartels. Because if we crack down on them, there could be cartel bombings at malls in their city. They don't want to have that blood on their hands. What do you think, Jeff?
Oh, you're dead on. You're absolutely dead on. That's why, I mean, look, as I said last week, Trump has done so much just in his first 100 hours. Okay? You know, people talk about 100 days. Forget it now. He set the new standard. 100 hours. He's given me a week's worth of material. It's almost like you just can't keep up. Like, really, you just can't keep up. He's doing so much. But he designated the Mexican drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, among so many other things that he's done. And that's precisely why. And, Jeff, look, we're focusing rightly on the fentanyl that they're bringing in, the cocaine, the heroin that is killing 100,000 Americans every single year. Never mind the guns, never mind the gangbangers, but the children. How many children they have trafficked into this country? 300,000 to be sexually abused and exploited. But one thing we're not looking at, take Mexico, take Colombia, take Venezuela. It doesn't matter. All across Latin America. What these drug cartels do to their own citizens, you mentioned the beheadings, the shootings, the mass murders, the rapes, the mass rapes. You know, they also target priests and nuns. How many priests, because when they speak out against this violence, priests are murdered in their churches? Forgive me, shot dead like dogs in the church, executed in the church. Nuns raped, and then murdered. Nuns. And they're bringing that third world violence into the United States. To give you an example, my wonderful brother-in-law, Rich, lives in Arizona with my wonderful sister-in-law, Lori. So we were driving, I forget where, we're going near Tucson to visit my sister and my brother-in-law. So I'm driving with Rich. And we're passing by a hill. And he stops the car and he pulls me over on the side of the road. He goes, Jeff. And he says, there's a story here, big thing in the local media. This is one of the known routes whereby you have the Mexican drug cartels bring in their drugs, but they also bring in women. Okay, they're trafficking women to be used as prostitutes here in the United States, sex slaves. And what they do is, once they cross the U.S.-Mexican border, it was at that hill in the back, they celebrate every time because they're bringing in millions of dollars in drugs, plus millions of dollars worth in, women being sexually enslaved and exploited. And he said, you know how they celebrate? They pick one woman out who they've trafficked, they gang rape her, and then they murder her and burn her alive. And apparently they did the trip so often, back and forth, back with the same ritual. Okay? We're talking one woman each time. They found a mass grave. Dozens and dozens and dozens of dead, raped women. And these were all from South America, Latin America. Assuming Mexican women, but who knows? Because they traffic them in from Honduras, from Guatemala, from El Salvador, from Brazil, from Venezuela, from Colombia, from you name it. And the Catholic Church is not condemning this? One of the biggest Lutheran denominations is not condemning this? The Episcopalian Church, with that whack-job bishop who lectured Trump at the National Prayer Service, is praising this? and condemning him for saying we're going to stop all this? I'm going to hammer these cartels? I'm going to secure that border? I'm not going to allow children and women to be trafficked and destroyed and murdered and maimed like this and exploited? It's unbelievable. And again, the church is not even defending their own priests and nuns who are the victims of these Mexican cartels. That to me is what's unconscionable. I'm sorry, it's unconscionable. So, no, I'm sorry. Look, Trump can only do so much. And look, I back him all the way. And Tom Homan can only do so much. We've got to start speaking out. And I really wish that parishioners be always respectful in a service. Okay? Please don't get always. Let the priest, pastor, whoever, rabbi, whatever, let them always finish their service. Never interrupt them during the service. Ever. But when Mass is over, for example, okay, in my case, afterwards, politely, civilly, don't yell, don't scream, but walk up. The priest at my church always at the back, he's shaking hands. Walk up, as you shake his hand, say, Father, I'm sorry, man, you're really off base. No, listen, I'm sorry, that's wrong. No, Jesus would not be with the illegals. No, I'm sorry. What about all the victims of the illegals? What about many of the illegals themselves who are being victimized? No, I'm sorry. Father, on this, you are perverting the gospel. And you're wrong. And you need to reflect. In other words, push back. Again, never interrupt the service. Do it respectfully. It's a priest, for God's sake, or it's a reverend, a pastor, a rabbi. You treat them with respect. But civilly tell them, if you want, firmly, but tell them, no, I'm sorry, you're wrong. You're wrong. If you want, you just say, look, you know what? Let's just say agree to disagree, okay? Fine. You can have your views, I'll have mine. Don't preach politics from the pulpit. I came to hear about the gospel and about Jesus and about God and about my soul. If I want to hear a screed like that, I can just listen to Elizabeth Warren. Trust me, or read an editorial in the Boston Globe. I don't need to listen to you. You're not telling us anything we haven't heard before. We've got to start speaking out and shame them. See, they keep trying to shame us. We have nothing to be ashamed of. When you have the truth, speak it. When you have the moral high ground, speak it. Jeff, final word to you.
Thank you, Jeff. Jeff, here's the thing. Is beyond intimidation. The only way this is going to be stopped is when the cartels start striking lily white communities like Newton and Marblehead and places like that. When you start seeing white American corpses floating in rivers, beheadings, bombings, just like in Mexico, when it really hits home for the normies in the suburbs. If it doesn't hit normie in the suburbs, they could care less. It's just a bunch of Latinos killing each other and killing the poor suckers who can't get out of these communities. That's it. You have two worlds. You have normie white world, and you have my world in Chelsea. That's it. But when the two worlds blend together and you start getting vigilantes, then they will care, and then it'll be too late. What do you think, Jeff? I'll hear you off here.
You're dead on. Look, Jeff, you're not 100, as I like to say. You're 1,000% correct. And it's slightly off topic, but it goes exactly to your point. We're not talking, obviously, in this case, illegals. We're talking fires and fire management and FEMA. And look at all these moonbats now in Hollywood. Look at them now in L.A., Pacific Palisades. Now, the lack of water, the incompetence at FEMA, the crazy DEI in the fire department. Suddenly now, Jeff, you got to see all of these lefties, all of these Hollywood liberals now. They're not happy with Gavin Newsom. They're not happy with Karen Bass. Suddenly now, they're all clapping for Trump in that exchange that he had with them when he said, no. Get rid of all these bureaucrats. Get rid of this ridiculous permitting process. They want to rebuild now. Let them rebuild now. Stop getting in their way. So what I'm saying is, when it hits them directly, ooh, they have a political awakening. Then they start converting. Then they've seen the light. So you're right. Sadly, it's going to have to really hit their communities, which are very privileged. These are limousine liberals. They live behind gates, and they live in very wealthy enclaves. For the most part, it doesn't affect them. It affects us, but it doesn't affect them. But when it starts to bleed over and starts affecting them, then they got a problem. 617-266-6868 is the number. Agree, disagree. Mike, who do you want me to go to next? Barbara in Maryland. Thanks for holding, Barbara. And as always, welcome.
Thanks for taking my call. Good morning, Jeff. What a great show. When I first called in, I was listening to a young woman that called in about the training in schools, drug addicts, yes, and rehabs, and what to do with some of these, with the programs for that. And my thought went to what we could do with some of these empty buildings located in every state in this country and have them turned into military academies and not co-ed academies for girls and boys, for ninth graders. We've got young children now, ninth grade, even earlier than that, getting carjacking, all over the country. They're shoplifting. They're out of control. Military school. These schools is to take the entire thing away from juvenile services, because that's where it gets abused and the kids are abused and they don't learn anything. But military schools are known to turn kids around. And that was my thought as she was talking about that. It would be a great thing. And it would be not very expensive, because we have empty buildings that could be used, and we have retired military and former teachers like myself who would participate and help, because most of these kids need remedial. They don't even know how to read and write and do math. So that was my original thought when I called in. But you've talked about so many things while I've been listening. President Trump is absolutely right to raid the churches, and they should raid schools as well. We can't forget that these sanctuary cities were placing grown illegal men in high schools and young girls have been sexually assaulted in many schools, probably more than we hear about. So the schools are absolutely not off bounds, and definitely not the churches. I'm not sure what's going on.
No, Barbara, look, as usual, I agree with you completely. Absolutely, completely. You hit the nail on the head. Barbara, the only thing I would add, and I'm being I'm not stroking your ego, okay? I'm really being like I'm in the confessional, okay? I'm going to be brutally honest with you. They need people like you. That's what they need. They need remedial education. Many of these kids, I don't care, white, black, brown, doesn't matter. I don't care. They need leaders like you, role models like you. I love the idea of these military schools. But I'll tell you what else they need, Barbara. And this is, you may agree, you may disagree. Instead of seeing all of these churches, I don't care, Catholic, Protestant, Orthodox, it doesn't matter. Cry me a river about illegal immigration and about open borders. Why don't they talk about the need for fathers and mothers in the home? Many of these children, as you're talking about, who are out of control and getting involved in carjackings and shoplifting and crime at 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, they usually come from a single-parent home, a broken home, where there's an alcoholic father or an alcoholic mother or a drug addict father or a drug addict mother. They come from broken homes. They need a father, a mother, a stable family. And if they have a single mother or a single father, that single mother or single father needs to have a kind of job and income that can provide at least some stability. Am I wrong?
Oh, no, you're not wrong at all. You're 100% right about that. But the churches, it seems like they've just become money-making machines. You know, they get money from the government for taking in the illegals and doing all the things that they're doing, and they've lost sight of what their real mission is. They're no longer interested in saving souls. I mean, we hear that all the time.
Oh, you're dead on. Barbara, you're dead on. Absolutely. You know, you and I really do think alike, Barbara. I got to tell you that. You know, the love of money is the root of all evil. To me, no truer statement was ever made. 9:20 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, this is from 617. And by the way, you can text the Kuhner Man, 70470. 70470. Jeff, what does it tell you when countries like Colombia, Mexico, and Haiti don't even want their own people back? Well, it tells you what Trump has been saying all along, that these illegals that they keep sending El Norte are not their best, obviously. Now, apparently this is breaking as you and I speak. The Associated Press is now reporting that the president of Haiti, the Haitian government, has now issued a public plea to Trump. They're not threatening anything. They're going to take all the deportation flights. They're not looking for a fight with the United States. They're almost on their hands and knees begging, saying it will be, quote unquote, the government's word, not mine. It will be catastrophic for Haiti if the Haitian illegals are sent back. And when pressed, he said so many of them are drug dealers, gangbangers, violent criminals, that there's already so much crime in Haiti that this could tip the whole country over the edge. I mean, that shows you what a mess Biden has left for us. The Haitian government is saying basically we offshored our violent criminals to you because we can't deal with them at home. You send them back, our whole society and government may just collapse. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay. Should Trump send all the illegals back? And should churches and schools be off limits to ICE raids? Churches are saying they're going to fight. The Pope himself is now weighed in, saying this will be considered an attack on the Catholic Church and that this would be a moral calamity for the world if Trump continues with his deportations, and especially if he sends ICE raids into sanctuaries like churches and schools. What say you? 617-266-6868 is the number. Lines are jammed. Gary in Florida. Thanks for holding, Gary, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Gary.
I share your frustration with the churches, because even just a cursory reading of the Bible tells you that God is an establisher of borders. When man was thrown out of the Garden of Eden, he established a border and set an angel there to keep people out. When he set up the nation Israel, he told Abraham where the borders were going to be, and even within the 12 tribes, he gave them their borders. So he's an establisher of borders. And Jesus himself lived in an occupied territory, and the only message that he gave concerning government action was to the occupiers to obey the occupiers by rendering to Caesar what is Caesar's. I mean, the church.
And to God, and to God what is God's. Gary, you're on fire, man. Absolutely brilliant. Gary, let me throw this in the mix, and you tell me if you agree or disagree. I wrote a column about this a couple of years ago, and my central argument was this. Heaven The whole concept of heaven and hell. That's the biggest border there is. Illegal immigration, basically, under this theory, means if anybody gets everybody's entitled to go to heaven. Everybody's entitled to go. I said no. Heaven has borders. Heaven has gates. God is very particular in who he lets in and who he doesn't let in. Am I wrong, Gary?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There was a sermon I heard preached, and somebody asked why you were, St. Peter was at the gate, and he asked why this guy said he was there. And he said, the guy on the middle cross told me I could go in. That's it. One other quick point, Jeff. Maybe it's not the worst thing if Tom Homan and Trump said, okay, let's let the churches be sanctuaries. I think within a week they'd be crying like Eric Adams.
Oh, in other words, they'd be so overwhelmed. They'd be like, come in here and clean them out because we can't, we're drowning here, correct?
Yes, and exactly that ties into what you were saying about the liberals in L.A. with the wildfires. Once they're faced with it, they'll understand.
That's an excellent point. Excellent point. Gary, thank you very much for that call. Really good points. 617-266-6868. Okay, you're not going to believe this. There is one governor and one mayor that now say they're willing to go. I don't believe them, to be honest, but that's what they're threatening. That they're willing to go to jail to defy Trump. To even order the police to confront ICE in these raids. I've got that. Your reaction, don't touch that dial. 9:31 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. This is a really insightful point. I didn't even think of this. Okay, talk about an interesting angle from 603 about illegals now, and they want to hide them in churches and places of worship and say they're sanctuaries so ICE can't touch them or deport them or detain them or whatever. Jeff, let me ask you this. Don't the Islamic terror groups have a well-known reputation for hiding out in quote-unquote places of worship, i.e. mosques? Are you seeing a similar tactic here? Excellent point. Excellent point. No, churches are not off limits. Absolutely not. Neither are schools, neither are hospitals. No. So send them in. If you don't like police being or ICE agents coming in or law enforcement coming into a church, don't break the law and shelter illegals. It's really that simple. Okay, now, speaking of breaking the law, Chicago, as I mentioned earlier, more than New York, more than Boston even, more than L.A., take your city, is really now, when I mean ground zero, I'm talking absolute ground zero in the deportations that Trump is now trying to implement, and also now of resistance to these mass deportations. So, the mayor of Chicago, who may be the biggest left-wing lunatic right now in the country, and that's saying something, has now openly come out and said he is going to order the Chicago Police Department to obstruct and interfere with ICE as they conduct their raids. Holman and the Deputy Attorney General, they're still waiting for Pam Bondi to get a vote to be officially confirmed, were in fact in person over the weekend as they were beginning these raids primarily against MS-13 and Trender Aragua gangbangers. So they're defending gangbangers, the worst of the worst, okay? The mayor now has said this is an attack on Chicago. It's an attack on its sanctuary city policy, and that he now is contemplating ordering the police to tip off illegals to escape ICE raids and, if need be, to physically prevent ICE from carrying out the raids. Incredibly, to me, this is naked, it's obstruction of justice. It's aiding and abetting illegal aliens. But to me, it's ultimately treason. This is an invasion, and you're siding with the invaders, with criminal illegal aliens who are murdering, pillaging, raping, and wreaking havoc all across Chicago. But that slob of a governor, and he is a globalist through and through. You want to talk about an open borders globalist. J.B. Pritzker has now come out and said, not only will I back Brandon Johnson, the crazy moonbat mayor of Chicago, but I'm going to stand up to ICE. I'm going to stand up to the feds. I'm going to stand up to Trump. Listen now to Pritzker. He went yesterday doing his tough guy routine with Dana Bash. Roll cut 15, Mike.
When we're talking about violent criminals who've been convicted and who are undocumented, we don't want them in our state. We want them out of the country. We hope they do get deported. And if that's who they're picking up, we're all for it. They show up with a warrant, and we're going to hand over people who are in our prisons or in our jails who fit that description.
Okay, so notice, this is what I find incredible, okay? I'm going to get to the juicy part in a second, because he throws in this caveat. Well, we don't want violent criminals. Notice he's acting like he's doing us a favor. Like, well, if they show up and they have a warrant, and, if you insist, we'll hand them over to you. Buddy, why didn't you do this? You're the governor. You knew that MS-13 is going around on a killing spree, on a murderous rampage. And Tren de Aragua is running wild. Yet you sat back and did nothing? So Trump's got to come in and basically do your job? And you're acting like, okay, if you really want the murderers and the pedophiles, damn it, I'll give it to you. This to me is mind-blowing. But now it gets interesting. Listen now to Mr. Tough Guy. Roll cut 15A, Mike.
What they're also doing, though, and it's quite disturbing, is they're going after people who are law-abiding, who are holding down jobs, who have families here, who may have been here for a decade or 2 decades, and they're often our neighbors and our friends. And why are we going after them? These are not people who are causing problems in our country, and what we need is a path to citizenship for them. We need to secure our border. We need to get rid of the violent criminals, but we also need to protect people, at least the residents of Illinois and all across the nation, who are just doing what we hope that immigrants will do.
Okay, so now they're immigrants. Okay? Now they're law-abiding. Like, you're going after the law-abiding. Hey, these are law-abiding illegals, if you can imagine that. They're undocumented, law-abiding. They're great. Hey, been here decades. They're our friends. They're our neighbors. Hell, they clean my toilet at my house. Okay? They're my toilet cleaner. I love them. They're my landscapers. I love them. Then he issues a threat. Roll cut 16B, Mike.
We also have a law in the books in Illinois that says that our local law enforcement will stand up for those law-abiding, undocumented people in our state who are doing the right thing, and we're not going to help federal officials just drag them away because somebody pointed at them and said, oh, that person's brown, or that person's not from here. Check it out. Maybe they're undocumented.
I mean, this is disgusting. First of all, nobody cares about the color of anyone's skin. Anyone who's illegal, I don't care if they're white, black, brown, Asian, I don't care. Take your pick. Young, old, gay, straight, man, woman, who cares? They're getting you deported. So, again, he's injecting the race card, okay? But more than that, we have a law in Illinois? So you have a law? You're claiming a state law to protect illegals from being deported? Yeah, that law, my friend, is null and void. state law does not trump federal law when it comes to immigration. Okay? That's number one. Number two, and more importantly, he's insisting we're going to uphold our state law protecting these so-called illegals against Trump. So what are you going to do? You're going to order your police to what? Shoot on ICE agents as they conduct a raid? Say they do a workplace raid. I know they're not at that phase yet. They're just focusing on the worst of the worst. But eventually, Trump has said, and Holman, we're going to do workplace raids. We're going to go to places of business. And if you're hiring illegals, we're going to come in and we're going to arrest them. And we're going to deport them. And then we're going to fine you. You, the owner, are going to get fined through the nose. So if I were you, I'd cut him out now. Let him go now. We can do this, as Trump says, the easy way or the hard way. So what? You're going to order police now to prohibit and prevent ICE agents from doing workplace raids? What are you going to do? Shoot them? What are you going to do? Form a human chain? What are you going to do? Have local law? You have the Chicago PD? Start getting into a shootout with ICE? If they engage in this, I don't care if it's the mayor or if it's this whack job in the governor's office. Okay, I don't care if it's Brandon Johnson or Pritzker. Arrest their asses. Arrest them on the spot. On the spot. For obstruction of justice, aiding and abetting illegal aliens. This has got to stop. And by the way, a law-abiding illegal is a contradiction in terms. Like, they're coming up now with this whole different category. Well, you know, they hold down a job, and they've been working for years and years. They're law-abiding. No, they're criminals, every single one of them. Why, Jeff? Because they came into the country illegally. They broke our laws to get in. And then they committed document fraud to get a social security number. And then they've committed more fraud to get the welfare, to get the education, to get the free health care, to get the free housing, to get the free food. Illegals are not entitled. It is illegal for illegals to collect welfare. So they've been breaking the law again and again and again and again. Now, no other country in the world tolerates this kind of lawlessness. I'm telling you, none. But somehow we're supposed to tolerate it in the United States because Pritzker wants to pay somebody to clean his toilets $5 an hour? Or to mow his lawn and do his landscaping for $10 an hour? Hey, you cheap skunk, you. And down the stretch we come. 9:48 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. Brenda in Beverly. Thanks for holding, Brenda, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Couple
Hi,
of
Brenda.
points. First of all, you blasphemous man, Jeff. Such awful talk, talking about people such in a criminal light. Oh, naughty, naughty, naughty. Now, with that said, of course, they want to invoke Jesus. Let's invoke Jesus. And I want to preface this by saying, I am not holier than thou. I am not better than anybody, and I am a sinner just like the next guy. Now, here we go with Jesus. Jesus came in, and he turned the tables because he was PO'd. It was his righteous indignation because they had turned his holy sanctuary. Okay, this is his place where we are to honor him, to revere him, to respect him, into a den of thieves. It had become a marketplace. That is not what it is for. Piggyback on what Barbara had said previously. Their mission is to save souls. That is their highest mission, okay, is to save our souls. But apparently it's probably a lot difficult to save people's souls when you have already sold your soul to the enemy. He's called the devil. And there's a place where he is, and you wrote that column, which I can't wait to find and read, which there is a distinction. There is a place called heaven and a place called hell, okay? And I don't want anybody to go there, and neither does God, which is a real hard thing to digest, because a lot of us want to say, oh, I hope he goes to hell. That's God's decision, who's there. It's not mine, even though I can throw my 2 cents in and probably want somebody to pay a price for their criminal activities. But we have to remember this. This gets lost in all of our angst and our anguish and our anger towards this whole manufactured chaos. This is what this is. They manufacture the chaos, and then we all have to pay the price. Is that anybody in life is most likely going to do what these people are doing. Okay? Like if I was like a woman and I got my children and I've got a country saying, come on in, all right, and we'll take care of you, it's probably likely, because if I do live in not a very good country, that I'm going to do that. So we have to remember that we should be more PO'd at our government for allowing this to happen. I mean, this is just beyond the pale. And of course, we can still be angry at people that are here, and especially the criminals, the worst of the worst, which that's what Trump is doing at this moment. The worst first, I guess that's what the campaign is called. That's great. I mean, for crying out loud, Maura Healey is now has done a turnaround. I mean, this is unbelievable, because she sees the writing on the wall, whether it has to do with funding or whether it has to do with her political aspirations. I don't know whether it's done out of the goodness of her heart, because she was poo-pooing this back in November, and there was not a peep from her or our local media, sort of giving it to her like, what are you doing protecting criminals, people that are raping our children? I mean, it's so despicable. So this is where we find ourselves. Liberalism
Brenda,
is
look, it is. No, it's a mental disorder. And you're right. They have facilitated this invasion. They created this chaos. As you put it, they manufactured it. We're now trying to clean it up. And we're the bad guys? I mean, it's honestly the chutzpah on these people. It really is. It's mind-boggling. And look, Brenda, let me be even more honest with you. Again, like I'm in the confessional. And you know my position. Every illegal should be deported and sent back. But I'm going to be honest, okay? As my friend Michael Savage says, psychological nudity. Let me bare my soul. If some of these illegals, because you're right, you mentioned if I'm a mom with 2 children and I'm living in a very poor third world country with really no prospects for myself or my kids, and not just any rich country, but the United States of America, the wealthiest of the wealthiest, the creme de la creme, says, come on down. We'll take care of you. Everything. A to Z. We got you covered. I'd be like, I'm nuts if I don't go. This is like winning the lottery. I mean, I can't believe they're that stupid. Yeah, I'm going to go. You better believe it, I'm going to go. So, you're right. I blame our government and I blame our officials above all. But if the illegals that were coming in, if they were grateful, if they were truly, because I'm telling you, I know me, because my father, my grandfather, my God, they kissed the ground when they walked into Canada. They kissed the ground. I mean, they were illegals, but they were refugees, displaced persons. They kissed the ground. I mean, my God, they were so grateful. Mwah, 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 mwah. Because the misery and the poverty and the harshness that they escaped. What I can't wrap my mind around is how many of them, and I'm not just talking about the violent criminal illegals, how many of them are a bunch of ingrates. Like they're owed this, like they're entitled to this. They come to take and take and take, and then here's the middle finger. I would be much more sympathetic if they were like, hey, thank you, I can't stop saying thank you. We're working, I want to work, I want to contribute, I want to give. Please let me stay. We'll do anything to stay. Please, I'm begging you, please. Thank you, I thank you, my children thank you, we love America. We love America. The only clothes we buy are shirts with the American flag or, whatever. So part of me would say, well, geez, they're really poor. They were let in. They so love this country. They so want to work. They so want to contribute. But the way they mooch off that welfare, and then not even a thank you. To me, I can't tell you, really. People say to me, Jeff, do you have any doubts? None. 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 Absolutely none. Bye. Adios. And don't let the door hit you on the way out. To President Trump, what you did to Colombia, you do to every country around the world. Take them back, all the illegals, or you're going to get hit with sanctions and tariffs. Bye-bye.